Alright, welcome back to the MF Customs YouTube channel. We are going to go over how to configure the 9495 Mustang's inputs and outputs. This will be fairly straightforward. We're going to show you where you can download our custom ICF file and how to apply it and how to utilize it and why we configure the inputs and outputs the way we do. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's bring up the Terminator X software here. Okay. So we have our Terminator X software. If you're using, again, one of our adapters, and if you've watched our 86 and 93, this kind of will be a repeat with some slight changes because the 9495 has a dual wound spun fan, so it's got a low and a high speed. And there's some things you need to take care of on that. So if you're using our adapter, you will see these are the inputs and how they're laid out on our boards, along with our outputs are laid out just like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go get and we're going to go download from our website www.mfcustoms.com. Oops, should have been back here, but that's okay. And even if you're not using our adapter, that's fine. You can still use this. So just go to all of our adapters, 9495, and click on specs. And if you scroll down, we have the Holley individual ICFs. Just download it. Great. And I'm going to minimize this. So the first things you'll want to do is you'll want to right click on your start and go run. This is for Windows 10. Windows 7, you should be able to just click on start and go run if you're still running Windows 7. Windows 10, 11, I'm not super familiar with yet. So here's the pathing. I will put this in our description. You'll type this in. Go ahead, hit OK. And what that'll do is that'll take you to your Holley's local install. So this is assuming you've already had the Holley software installed. I have 3 different versions of the Holley software. We're going to focus on V2 tonight, and hopefully that's what you're running. And we're going to go into the individual config library, and then IO. Now, I already have that in here, but what I'm going to do now is go up here to my name, downloads, because this is typically where most browsers save their files, and I'm going to drag this 9495 down to this window, and I'm going to replace the file. Great. Okay. Now let's go back into the Terminator X software. So I'm going to open up our tune, in our case demo tune that we have for this, and the first things we're going to want to do is, if you're using the base tune right out of the Holley software, you'll want to go into the basic IO and you just want to turn fan 1, fan 2 off. You do not want to use those, and I'll explain that in a little bit when we go to configure these fans. The next thing you'll want to do is click on inputs and outputs, and if you have AC in your car and you're going to be using AC, you need to change your AC kick from ground to 12 volt. Now if you're using the Holley wiring, you did not use our adapter, you might have used our service to have us convert your wiring, it would still be 12 volt in our case, but if you're using, say, I think Current Performance makes their own harness, you will want to validate what they're using for a trigger side. Most are 12 volt, but there are some that are ground. So just reference that if you're not using any of our stuff. Okay, so with that out of the way, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to configure inputs and outputs. We're going to bring that in. Now, if you have this button already, let's go into it, and you have stuff configured, our process here will overwrite that. So you might want to take note of it. If you don't have anything, or you don't even have this button, so say your toolbar looks more like this, that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring ours in now. So we're going to go up to input, toolbox, add individual config file. We're going to go into IO, and we're going to go 9495. And we're going to open that up, and there's the button. So we're going to click on it, and it automatically brings up the inputs. So we have the flex fuel sensor input pre-built, and a secondary wideband. This is what would be connected to the EGR pin if you decide to hook up a second wideband for monitoring only. Can't be used for tuning, but you could log that data, and it is kind of nice to have. And then our outputs is the low-speed fan and the high-speed fan. And the way we configure these, if you go into it, is the low-speed fan. You know, we have 2 input triggers, the coolant temp using the factory settings of 204 and on at 208, off at 204, and RPM above 600. This is to get rid of that electrical load on your car if your temperature is above 208 and you turn it off and you go to turn it back on. Key on, the fan would be on with the default. We don't want that. So this helps there. The other thing we've done is we've linked the high-speed fan, because you do not want both of these triggered and on at the same time, because you can overheat up the fan and cause problems. So what will happen is if the fan gets up to 208, the low speed kicks on, but if the temperature keeps rising to the point where the high-speed fan kicks on, what will happen is if the high-speed fan kicks off, this here will disable the low speed and only have the high speed on at that time. And then when the high speed gets below 214 in this scenario, the low speed will turn back on. And we've already have this configured with a person with AC, where if the AC kick is enabled, the fan will be on regardless of the temperature and RPM. It will just be on. All right. Now, we do have, like I stated back here, we have flex fuel in here, but that doesn't mean your tune will be automatically calibrated for flex fuel. You will still have to do some advanced tables to get that built. But this right now, this video is just more or less to show you how to get the sensors configured. Okay, so let's go into the pin map now, and let's assign them. So we're just going to follow what's up here on the video. You know, the second wideband would go to the EGR, which is input 2, and the flex fuel will go to input 3. Our outputs, we're going to knock out these originals from Holley, drop in the low speed to output 1, high speed to output 2, but we don't have the idle air. And a lot of people don't realize this is something that's with Holley, that you have to have the software to do this. Can't do it from the handheld. So we need to go into the idle, ICF, and you need to change the advanced idle control to a 5-liter Ford, pulse width modulation. And we're going to do a setting of 315. We are working to narrow this down on what the 9495s actually used. I've seen instances of the T4MO using 124, but we're doing some more testing, but we will narrow that down. If we do get it to where we like it, we will probably update everybody with that. Okay. Always come into inputs and outputs to make sure that this is set, and it is, pulse width negative. So we go back to the pin map, go to our outputs, and there it is. So now we drag our IAC PWM down, and now we can upload this to the ECU, and now all the fan control, AC, idle air is set up. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below or go to our website, send us an email. Let us know if you have any questions. I'll also put the shortcut to get to the Holley folder in the description below. We leave comments as well. The other thing we will be doing in the near future is we're going to do a video on how to do sensors and how to set up custom calibrations for sensors. And that'll be coming soon. Alright, appreciate it. Thank you. Till next time.